I'm Kevin Elizabeth, the wedding photographer in San Diego. Today's video is going to be all about the things that you should be aware of when you are finding wedding vendors through Instagram. Before we really jump into what you should be aware of, I do want to make the point that Instagram is an amazing place to find wedding vendors, whether you're getting married in your city or another city. Because the platform is so visual, you can instantly see their most recent work. A lot of wedding vendors do not update their websites very often, which is so crazy to me. So sometimes I will send potential brides to their Instagrams and I'm like, just look at their Instagram, don't look at their website when you're making the decision to hire them. But basically, you are able to find people from all different cities, countries, whatever, with the use of hashtags. For example, hashtag San Diego wedding photographer, hashtag San Diego film photographer, things like that make it so easy for you to find vendors very, very quickly. And I don't know if I've talked about this before, but basically the way that I would search for a vendor is I would use those hashtags. Then I would start scrolling through anybody who catches my eye, kind of make a mental note of their name. And then if I start seeing multiple pictures that catch my eye and they all have the same name or same like couple of different account names, then I'm like, okay, these are the people I want to look into. So that's a really great way to find them. Having said that, there are a couple of things that you need to watch out for when you are finding vendors on Instagram. And the first one is the vendor might not be posting work that is actually theirs. I see this time and time again with new vendors, particularly new planners, new photographers, or maybe even slightly established that aren't sharing work that's theirs. They're sharing a lot of work from other planners or other photographers, and that is not okay. Now that you know that, you might be wondering, well, how the heck am I supposed to tell if that vendor is posting work that's theirs or not? And sometimes it can be really tricky, but one of the greatest ways to tell is to, when you're looking through a potential vendor's Instagram, look at the captions of some of their photos and make sure they're giving credits in the caption to different vendors. So if I see a new planner, for example, posting photos and they don't credit a single person, I'm immediately suspicious that either they are just really crappy creditors and they need to be sharing credits for the people they work with, or they don't know the credits because they stole that photo from another planner's Instagram or a giant wedding blog like Style Me Pretty's Instagram, and they're posting it. And even though they're not saying, this isn't my photo, I just love to share it, it's kind of implied because it's on their account that it's their work. I mean, a bride isn't going to necessarily like scrutinize like this unless you have this information now. So it's one of those things where whenever I come to a new vendor's like Instagram for the first time, I'm always looking through some of their photos. I want to see who they're working with. I want to see if they're crediting people, because if they don't credit people properly, I probably don't want to work with them. Or if I am going to work with them, I need to tell them you have to credit before I'm going to work with you, because you have to be courteous to your vendors. Because you wouldn't want somebody to post a photo of your work and not credit you. It's totally not fair. But by the bare minimum, they absolutely should be crediting the photographer. If you can't find any credits, I would be a little suspicious. That does not immediately mean that it's not their work, because again, maybe they're just really crappy to the vendors they work with, but it is something that would put me on alert. I would definitely check around some other stuff. I might go to their website and see if they've been blogging these things, if they mention where it took place or any details whatsoever. If they have nothing, I honestly might move on. If you're really curious, you can always message them or comment and say, is this your work? I don't see any credits. And that's a great way to just ask them, because maybe it is, and maybe they're just crappy at crediting. And then maybe that'll inspire them to credit properly. But that's a good way to tell. Another thing, like if you see images on multiple people's accounts, that's another great way to kind of tell maybe somebody who's sharing this, it does not belong to. Now that might be a little harder to see depending on how big your wedding market is, but just a little thing to look out for. So another thing you need to be aware of is if their work looks completely inconsistent with their feed. This more so applies to a photographer whose work should be consistent. So if they're posting a lot of photos that look amazing and then a lot that look kind of crappy, that is kind of a sign that maybe they're using other people's work. And that's something I would definitely at least look into. Now again, none of these things at a first glance mean it's not their work, but it's always kind of a sign that you should investigate a little further before you reach out to them, because the last thing you want to do is hire a vendor whose Instagram shows all this work that's not theirs, and you're expecting to get that quality of work, and then what you get is garbage because they don't know how to do that work, because they don't like do that work at all. So that's just a thing that you really need to keep in mind. You need to be conscious of. Of course, the same thing can be said for websites, but I find Instagram is a really easy place. Sometimes I will see people post photos and I'm like, I don't know that that's their work. And maybe sometimes they credit the photographer, and then I go look at that photographer's feed, and yes, this is a crazy rabbit hole, but I'll look at the photographer's feed and try to find that original image, and I'll see if that photographer credited that planner or that florist. And if they credited somebody differently, I now know that original person posting it is not actually their original work. So that's just something that I would definitely keep in mind, because you should do a little bit of due diligence to make sure that these people are legitimate, that they are sharing work that is theirs, because a lot of people share for inspiration. Some other people share because they basically want to steal other people's work and pose it as their own. And I don't really think that's okay. I think you need to be sharing work that's yours, or it needs to be something that if it's a planner sharing a beautiful shot from a photographer of a city and they ask the photographer for permission, it doesn't necessarily like show work that could be construed as theirs. It's just kind of a beautiful image that is really like generic in the best way possible of that word. So that's something you guys need to keep in mind. Another thing to be aware of on Instagram is the fact that anybody can make an account and anybody can put together things that are beautiful. But if this person does not have a website that you can go to, then I would be a little wary of hiring them, because any professional should be having a website. There are cases here and there where a very established business does not have a website. They might only have a Facebook or a Yelp. That's really rare. Most of the time, a vendor is going to have a website. So if this person on Instagram doesn't, I would just be cautious and ask them where you can see more of their work, where you can see some of their reviews as well. One last thing to keep in mind is that when you are searching for hashtags, there are cases, and I do this as well because I service worldwide, where people are showing work that was in Houston and they're hashtagging it as Houston, but they're actually based in San Diego. So I will hashtag whatever is relevant to the photo, or if it's kind of a generic image, and I mean like generic as in not like a specific location that you can see, then I might use a couple different city hashtags where I do service. But again, like I am based somewhere. So a lot of photographers and planners do travel. So make sure that you see where they are. Hopefully the vendor lists it on their Instagram. You can literally find out that I am based in San Diego in my Instagram bio, on my website homepage, on my website footer that is on every single page, and on my about page. I still somehow have people ask me, where are you based? And I'm like, did you look at literally anything that I have put out in this world? Because it is everywhere, okay? Hopefully the vendor lists where they are, but just do a quick check, because if you don't have the budget to maybe fly them somewhere, you don't want to have wasted a bunch of time talking to a photographer for your New York wedding who actually lives in Paris and is going to charge you to travel there because that's somewhere where they work. So just do a quick search, make sure that you are finding out where they are. Some people don't list it anywhere, and that is so irritating, I will say, because you're like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna have to fly you somewhere, or if you're local right here. What does Southern California mean? Does that mean LA, or does that mean like San Diego? There's all kinds of things that people do that are frustrating when you're just trying to find out basic information. But just look, do a little bit of a check. If you can't find it anywhere that should be a very obvious place to find, then definitely ask them where they're based, and then you can move forward from there. So those are just sort of my tips for things that you should keep in mind or really be aware of on Instagram. If you're not sure if somebody's posting work that's theirs or not, just ask them like, oh, did you do this wedding? Like, it's beautiful or whatever. If they've got a lot of credits, that's typically a sign that it is their wedding, because they have tagged all those people. So it's almost like they're claiming that as their team. In rare cases, people will do that and leave off the original vendor. But hopefully that's not the case. That's a lot more rare. So just look for people who aren't sharing credits and try to determine why, if they're just lazy, inconsiderate, or if they're actually using somebody else's work and therefore they don't know those credits or don't want to share them. So the next thing I'm going to jump into is a giveaway. I realized from my last book giveaway of A Bride's Guide to a Picture Perfect Wedding that I had actually said that it was going to be announced in July, but I announced it all in June. So I'm gonna do another one. You guys have until this Saturday, August 10th, to enter the giveaway. And the way that you guys are going to be entering is, one, you have to subscribe, and I'm sorry if you can hear the construction going on, it is very loud. So you have to be subscribed to my YouTube. You have to click the bell for notifications so that when I upload a video, you guys get an alert, or if I post to the community, you guys can see it so you don't miss out. And then the third thing is that you guys need to be following me on Pinterest, and that is Kavin Elizabeth is my Pinterest username. And then comment down below with your Pinterest username to make sure that I can verify that you are following me on Pinterest. If you're not sure what your username is, it's whatever is after the pinterest.com/ in between the next slash. So that is what your username is going to be. If you don't have a Pinterest, then you can just comment down below with something that you enjoyed about this video, but hopefully you guys have a Pinterest, because that is really the best way to be entering this giveaway. And you do need to be located in the United States. If you want to enter this but are not located in the continental US, you can enter, but you will be responsible for international shipping costs, which tend to be around $18. Not the best thing, but I want to make sure if you do want this, at least you can get like a really nice discount on the book if you are international. But living in the continental United States is probably the easiest thing to do for this giveaway, and I wish you all the best of luck. I am going to be announcing the winner next Tuesday, August 13th. So please make sure to have clicked that bell so that you get notified when I release it. Maybe even put a note on your calendar, and I'm going to announce the winner in that video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.